Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 260. That's got to be some sort of milestone for the 13th of October 2013. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Now, before we go any further with the Skeptic Zone this week, my heartfelt thanks to all those people who Twittered and Facebooked and especially emailed me directly with their condolences over the loss of a dear little cat, Adele. Very touching. Wow. Thank you all so much. Yeah, there's something about owning a pet, a cat, in this situation. It's quite something. So I must really thank everybody for taking the time to send me well wishes. And all the people who sent photographs and told me how they're giving their cat or their dog or their pet a little bit of extra attention, an extra pat, an extra treat in the memory of Adele. That's so touching. Thank you all so very much. But now let's get on to this week's show. This week's show is a Maynard special. Haven't seen Maynard on the show in the last little while. Wow, he's made up for it this week, folks, because yesterday he and I and a bunch of other skeptics went to SkeptiCamp in Sydney. And I'm delighted to say that SkeptiCamp in Sydney was a huge success. Wow, what a fun day. So many interesting talks, so many interesting people to meet and talk with. And I'm delighted that skeptic fans were there and they came up and said hello. So much so that Maynard's going to be interviewing some Skeptic Zone fans on this week's show. One lovely lady in particular, Heidi, hello Heidi, who listens to the Skeptic Zone driving along through the countryside, is involved in a very important initiative up in the northern part of this state, New South Wales, up in the Northern Rivers, to do with fighting for vaccination. More about that coming up soon during Maynard's extensive report into SkeptiCamp. He's also going to be interviewing me, my presentation all about spoon bending on the radio. Spoon bending on the radio. Had a lot of fun doing that and taught a lot of people how to bend spoons. Also, and of course, the most important aspect of SkeptiCamp, Cupcake Camp. Oh boy. Those cupcakes, my friends, you should have tasted those cupcakes. They were fantastic. The one that stole my heart was the Cookie Monster cupcake. Delicious. But we'll find out who actually won the cupcake competition towards the end of Maynard's report from SkeptiCamp. We're also going to be hearing from Jason Brown and Dave the Happy Singer and lots of other people enjoying the day. And next week's even more from SkeptiCamp. And for all you fans of A Week in Science from the Royal Institution of Australia, www.riaus.org.au, fear not, that's coming up to end this episode of The Skeptic Zone. Couldn't have a week without the Week in Science. You know, SkeptiCamp was so much fun, it's whetted my appetite. Whetted my appetite for the upcoming Australian Skeptics National Convention. And our friends in Canberra tell me there are only now a sparing number of tickets left. You still can get your tickets. Not too many left. It's good to see that I think it's going to be a packed house, a full house for the Australian Skeptics National Convention. And if by the end of this episode you are so impressed with Maynard's boundless enthusiasm and energy as he runs around interviewing people, well, look out. After the Australian Skeptics National Convention, we're going to have so many wonderful interviews from Maynard for you to enjoy. And you can help. You can, help out a little bit. We're just trying to raise enough funds to cover Maynard's hotel room. And there's a link on the Skeptic Zone site, www.skepticzone.tv. You can buy us a round of drinks, which is really a way of just getting some money to us, which we'll put towards Maynard's hotel room. And it's at less than $400. We'll cover the lot, so we hope we can meet that. Anyway, that's enough from me. As I reach over here and give Fred the cat, hello Fred, an extra little pat there. Now, I think I'll run downstairs, open the fridge, and see if I do have a spare Cookie Monster cupcake. Who knows? While I'm doing that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, people, it's rushing and hushing, and I'm standing here in my elasticized shorts as the excitement of Skeptic Camp washes over all of us. Everyone's very excited for the first talk, which I've turned up for, which is going to be a round criticism of the New South Wales skeptics, which is good because I've just moved to the Victorian branch a few days ago, so I'm very happy about this. For the Skeptic Zone. My name's Maynard, this is for the Skeptic Zone, and I've noticed there's a man taking photos of some post-it notes on a whiteboard. You must have an exciting life, my man.
Never underestimate the excitement of post-it notes.
Yeah, well,
I'm actually trying to keep track of who's going in which speaking slot, because I'm running around taking a lot of photos for today, and the last couple of years I've just completely lost track of who was speaking and what they were talking about.
So
I'd have the photos,
so now you can go back to
I wouldn't know who they were, yeah.
Oh, and you can look at the EXIF data to see what time you took the photo. And
pretty much, yeah.
Now, we've had a couple of talks already today. What have you made of it? We've had some controversial stuff. We've had some futuristic stuff.
Yeah, I think the best one so far was the rather controversial one. It was the most amusing anyway. I'm not sure how much I should really talk about it because it was a bit of a built-up rant over time, so...
Do you think we could describe it as a polemic or not?
Polemic? I wouldn't really say so, no.
Because it was kind of railing against authority, but not state... Yeah, I don't know if it fits the bill. Yeah, but look, and of course there has been far too few mentions of William Shatner's new album here today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yes, I've been the only person that's mentioned... I think Ponder the Mystery could well be the subtitle of today.
Definitely, yes. It would suit it very well. Okay. And, of course, it's all about the Shat as well. No matter... Any topic can be brought around to the Shat. So.
Of course it can, as can indeed Cupcake Camp that's coming on later. I believe the world-famous, the universal-famous Cupcake Camp competition will be held later. Have you got an inside running on who could win this year?
Oh, well, I'm a little bit biased because one of my partners is actually in and she's one of the organisers too.
Any idea what style she's gone with this year?
Strawberry all the things. Because I'm a big fan of strawberry flavouring, so...
Strawberry what thing?
All the things.
Right, okay. Well, okay.
Strawberry flavoured cupcakes with strawberry cheesecake icing, strawberries on top.
Okay. So the only way that could lose is if someone does a chocolate everything.
Which I think Dan has done.
Oh, already. Controversy already.
It's
today.
going to be a close call between...
Well, I'll let you get back to photographing those post-it notes with a macro lens.
No problems. Talk to you later.
We've got Joe Benahue going, oh, Joe, calm down there. Look, she's just had one of these suppository things that only nurses have access to, and she's gone a bit crazy in the corner there, but it was a very successful lecture from Joe. We'll be talking to her about science, Friends of Science and Medicine, but we've discovered Heidi here. Hi, Heidi, how are you?
Maynard, I'm very well.
Now, what do you think of Skeptic Camp today? First time?
It is my first time. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed to be in a room with so many clever people.
Oh, look, after meeting a few...
We're here.
After meeting a few of them, let me assure you, it's merely a veneer.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little better, I suppose.
Now, what's been your favourite talk so far? We're only at lunch at the moment.
Oh, look, I don't know. I'm a little bit biased because I came here for moral support for a friend of mine, Alison, who gave a brilliant speech about the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters Group.
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
that would have to be...
I saw her asking a few great questions there. And you're a bit of a long-time Skeptic Zone listener as well. And we like to meet our listeners and find out what they're doing when they listen. So what are you doing when you're listening to The Zone?
Okay, well, I probably came across the Skeptic Zone about a year ago, I think, through Rachel Dunlop, Dr. Rachie.
Oh, troublemaker.
I first heard Dr. Rachie being interviewed by Richard Feidler on one of his conversation hours, and when I find her research fascinating, and when I looked more into it, and then I discovered she was involved with the Skeptic Zone, then I started listening to the Skeptic Zone. And it's a great way to spend the time when I'm driving across the countryside for work.
Is it you got a long drive, have you?
I have. Sometimes, for work. I travel about 2.5 hours each way. And I pop the phone in the car and pop the podcast on, and away I go.
Oh, great. And Heidi, I understand that you've been so inspired by your journey in skepticism that you've started up a new group.
Well, I am a member of the group. I wasn't one of the founding members, but I'm actively involved now. We are called the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. If people are interested in learning more about us and what we do, they can go to northernriversvaccinationsupporters.org. So basically, we're a group of people. We're only newly formed, only a few months now. We've got about 140 members. Some are researchers, scientists, GPs. We've even got a couple of mayors in there, but mostly community members who are concerned about the low vaccination rates in the Northern Rivers. So our aim is to give people some support and correct some of the misinformation out there to do with to vaccinations.
Okay. What's your most recent activity? What have you been up to most recently?
Recently, myself and Tony McCaffrey, who tragically lost a baby to whooping cough, she and I went to a Lismore Council meeting and put in a deputation for Lismore City Council to lobby the state and federal parliaments to bring back the free whooping cough booster for women in their third trimester. That's our latest thing, but we're ongoing in a lot of different projects.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that, and people get online there and support. Now, what other what else do you listen to as a podcast? I always like to know what other ones they listen to. Have you got any others?
Well, yes, because of this.
Yeah, make another bloody episode and someone might listen to it, smart-ass. We've got the Drunken Scare. In Vino Veritas podcast, I would recommend. They only did 3 shows and then they folded because of alcoholic poisoning, but it's well worth a listen.
I'll give that one a go. Through the Skeptic Zone as well, I learned about some other podcasts out there. I'm a big fan of the Ross and Carrie show. I think they're hilarious. Yes, I love their show as well. So I always keep up to date with them, with the Skeptic Zone. And I've recently also started listening to Stuff You Should Know.
Oh, okay.
Stuff You Should Know, which is, it's interesting as well.
Oh, well, you know me, I've always got to give a free kick for the paranormal shows like your Mysterious Universe, your No Agenda, and, of course, the Look at His Butt podcast, all about William Shatner.
I can't comment on that one. I'm going to be Googling that, though.
Yeah, look at his butt, always. It's everything Shatner, everything Star Trek, but not as you know it.
Okay.
But whether you want that in your car while you're travelling a long distance, that only you can make that decision, Heidi.
I do have to focus somewhat on the road.
That's
true. Listeners can't see the fact that Heidi has gone a shade of red.
Yeah. Well, look, have a good day. And do you think maybe next year you'll be back giving a speech here?
Yes, I think definitely I might give that a go. Yes. Great. I'll probably need the whole 12 months to work on it as well.
Oh, well, thanks for coming today and thanks for listening, Heidi.
Thank you, Maynard. Thank you.
One of the things I'm going to demonstrate a bit later on in our conversation is the extraordinary thing of bending a spoon on radio, which you'd think is crazy. It's like a ventriloquist dummy on radio. But I hope you'll see how it works. All right. So without any further ado, I'll hand it over to our DJ, Maynard.
Yes. Well, coming up later on the ABC, we'll have a very boring 3-hour interview with someone no one's ever heard of. But right now, we've got Richard Saunders in the studio, who apparently still is to do with the New South Wales or Australian skeptics, although luckily I joined the Papua New Guinea skeptics during the last talk, so I've got nothing to do with him. So, Richard, I believe you're going to do a polemic against that poor old Uri Geller, who my good friend Jay Katz, who is a anomalist, believes has been hard done by certain people like James Randi over the years.
Thank you, Maynard. Good to be here. Why don't we make ourselves comfortable? Uri Geller being hard done by. You know, he does pretty well for a guy who's been hard done by. He still has radio and TV shows around the world. He still performs. I think he calls himself a mystifier now. He's sort of backed away from the paranormal a bit.
Well, what about claims by people such as Rupert Sheldrake that there is a genuine one consciousness which someone like Uri Geller can tap into?
All claims, including those by people we don't agree with, are subject to testing and verification. If there is this thing and he can come up with a decent way to prove it and test it and have it reproduced by other people around the world, that's the way to go. And as yet, unless I'm sorely mistaken, that hasn't happened.
Okay. Look, we'll get on to the Kennedy assassination later, but right now, because the House Select Committee actually almost overturned the original finding of the lone gunman. You know that, Richard, and you ignore that every time you come on my show.
I'm in denial, Maynard.
The acoustic evidence is undeniable. There was someone on the grassy knoll. Anyway, we'll get on to that later because no one's really interested in that stuff.
Has anybody used that term for anything else ever? The only grassy knoll I have ever heard of is in Texas, in Dallas. That's it. There's a sign. This is the grassy knoll.
Well, yeah, you never heard anyone say, I'm going to mow my grassy knoll, which I think I'll get a T-shirt made with that on it. Now, Richard, what are you going to demonstrate to us here? And since it's on radio and we can't see you, how do we know that you're not pulling a fast one?
We have a studio audience. Hello, studio audience.
Hello, Richard.
Hello. They're going to be our judges, so to speak. Now, the whole point, what I've got, and the studio audience can attest, I've got a whole table here of spoons. I get them at the catering store down near the Australian Museum. In fact, there's a catering store. You can buy pots and pans and spoons. And a young lady in the audience kindly would you like to pop down and just verify for our studio
And while she's
audience?
doing that, can you also get whipped cream bulbs there, Richard?
I'm sure you can, Maynard.
Thank you. I'll get the address later.
It feels like a normal spoon that you would use at home or at a restaurant or something. It says S/S on the back of it.
Okay. Now, does it appear it's been weakened at all on the joint there?
No.
Okay.
All right. So, thank you very much. They're still in their packets, many of them. They're just scattered about. But this is how, and using theatre of the mind, because our studio audience in a moment, I'll get you to shut your eyes. But don't worry, I'll show you again in a minute what's really going on. So this is what would happen. So we're in the studio. So everybody shut their eyes. Shut their eyes and pretend, studio audience, that you're listening on the radio. Well, Maynard, I'm going to show you here, live on radio, how spoon bending works. Now, can you verify that's just a normal spoon if I tap that like that?
Yes, looks like a normal spoon, and I'm having a close inspection man look at it, and I can see that there is no. So Inspector number 43 says that's just fine.
I'm going to hold this one up. I'm holding this one up now, and I'm going to wiggle it slowly, and if you can tell people what you see happening.
Okay. Well, I can see the spoon moving back and forth. I can see the tail and the head of it moving back and forth in a straight line. But as you appear to do it, it appears to be moving suddenly in a different way. And the top is actually looking very flexible, as if it's about to flop off. And it's actually bent at an increasingly, it's almost at a 90-degree angle there. And that you successfully broke the spoon. How about that, people? Now, normally I would expect a bit of misdirection or something like that when you did that, but how did you do that, Mr. Skeptic? I'm suspicious of you.
Well, the studio audience can open their eyes now. So that's what it sounds like when I'm on the radio. And the people at home listening now on this for the podcast would have got the same thing. All I have to do is the same trick that I normally do. Maynard describes what's happening, and everybody listening has an image in their mind of what's happening. And it helps if Maynard, which he was sort of impressed and a bit confused and a bit stunned about what's going on. Now,
I think it's the work of the devil.
Every time I've done that on the radio, people ring up the radio station and say, how does he do it? How does he do it? Because the mind is a wonderful thing. You know, all I have to do is a simple trick. The sound of the spoon hitting the table seals the deal. It's a wonderful thing. Now, spoon bending, of course, it's a very old conjuring trick. There are two ways to do it. The first way is to get a normal spoon like that. They're all normal spoons, by the way. They're all from the shop. They're not special magic spoons. So if I get that spoon like that and I start to rub it like this. Now, don't forget that in the back of your minds, you're expecting to see a spoon to bend. So that's already, working away in your mind. So if I do that, there's gasps from the audience, and the spoon appears to bend like that. Would you agree, Maynard?
Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Okay, so that's the first way. The second way is the actual break, where it falls into two parts. And for the benefit of the studio audience, well, maybe there is a little bit of preparation involved in doing that. I'm not saying there is or there isn't. As far as I know, it's just mystical means. So let's try that again. This time you can keep your eyes open. Hey, Maynard, look. I've got a solid spoon here. Now watch what happens.
Oh, yeah, and of course we see both parts of it seeming to move independently of one another, and it seems to be separating, going wobbly like the molten metal in the Terminator movie, and there we go again. Wow. What I can't figure out is you distressed that spoon then in front of us. How did you distress the spoon earlier with me being able to have a look at it and seeing it's not distressed?
Oh, that was psychic.
Oh.
It's another interesting thing, and it's something magicians know full well. I can do all sorts of things here with spoons and misdirect you, and you will misremember what happened. In fact, earlier, when you were examining spoons, I just made sure you weren't examining the spoon that I didn't want you to examine. But you don't remember that. You don't remember that. The best one I did was in a studio once. I had two perfectly good spoons like these are, and I had another one, which I had here. So I was here, and the announcer was just near me, but there was a bit of a panel between us. So I gave him both spoons, and he examined them very carefully like this, and he bent them a little bit. And I said, now pass me back one spoon. So if you hold those two in your other hand, Maynard. So I said, okay, I'll take this spoon. And I brought it back like this, and in a flash, I swapped it for another spoon. Because of the panel, he didn't see that, and it was just one simple movement. So when I started to work on the spoon, as far as he knew, the announcer, he'd just given me a perfectly good spoon. I did the whole routine, and he explained to the audience, my God, it's bending, I can't believe it, it broke. And he was just, his mind was swimming. How could I possibly do that? And it comes back to the point where I can do these things, and you can do them too. It's just a matter of practice. The best one I ever did, I think, was I was being interviewed by A Current Affair, the Channel 9 TV show. And I gave the reporter two spoons, and he had a close look at them. And he held on to one. And while I engaged him in conversation like this, and I said, well, I don't think, and I was talking, I was working on the spoon below, just down here, just out of his eyesight. And it only took a second. It only takes a second when you practice for long enough, and especially if I'm talking to you, there, it's done. That's all it takes. And I can just carry on holding it casually, start to work on it, and away it goes. Now, who would like to give it a go? Would you like to try? Our young volunteer. Come down. A big hand for
Yeah, we have Vanessa coming down, and you're going to try and teach her how to do some spoon bending?
Absolutely.
I think the hardest bit of this is trying to do the misdirection so they don't see you distress the other spoon. That's the hard bit.
That's the hard part. Well, let's take that as a given. Let's see what you can do with a distressed spoon. So step over here. So I'll get you to hold that up like that. And if you tap it on the table like this, not too hard, just tap it, you can convince people that it's a normal spoon. Now, what I'll get you to do is hold it like that, okay? Grab the bottom. Now squeeze quite tightly at the neck here, and at the same time start to wiggle it. And eventually, just nice and easily and slowly, eventually you'll feel it crack. Let me know when you can feel it snap.
It's pretty close.
Keep going. Now, it's done?
It's done.
Don't let on. Don't let on. So as far as you all think, right, and I'll just quickly catch up. There we go. So, ow, there it is. Now, as you can see, studio audience, that's not your normal spoon, all right?
Two halves.
Exactly. But if I hold it like that, and you have no idea...
This still looks like one spoon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now start to just give it a little flutter like that. Look at that. Oh, she's got the power. Now, slowly release your grip, very slowly, and look. Now, what's happening in your minds? You, as far as you know, this is a solid spoon. Your mind is now creating that bend. It's creating the fact that it's plastic. And then the finale is...
Yes. Now can you teach her to do the bullet catch that Penn and Teller do?
So that's... I mean, and you know, being able to do that bizarrely on radio, I think, can work so much better than doing it on television, because the action is taking part in your minds when you're the listener. Now, it's fun to see it bend. You all just saw it bend, and it's fun, and it looks amazing, of course. But when it's being described to you, I think it's a very powerful thing too. And I've always enjoyed doing that on radio, Maynard.
Is there another one? I mean, Uri Geller made this famous. Is there another psychic trick that charlatans are using at the moment that would be good to do on radio, or that you could duplicate?
Yeah, there's another one that Geller used to do, which works really well on radio, especially because they call this the switchboard meltdown effect. And this is how this works.
Yes.
You know this one?
Another one, yep.
So what Uri Geller would do, and skeptics have done this too, to show the psychology behind it. So if we're on a talkback program, you and me, we're in the studio, and I say, now I'm talking to all the thousands of people out there listening in Radioland. Please, everybody, run to your cupboard, run to your drawer, get that old watch, the grandfather's watch or your mother's old watch that's no longer working. It's been in the cupboard for years. Just everyone, please grab that. All right, so let's say we've got 100,000 people listening or whatever the case may be. Maybe 5% of those people will actually run to their drawers and find something. Not a huge amount, but that's all right. That's still quite a lot of people. Then I'll say, now you have it. I'm going to send my psychic powers over the radio now. Hold the watch in your hand. Give it a bit of a shake. Give it a bit of a rub. And I want you to think psychic thoughts. Come on, we can do it. All the people listening, the thousands of people around Australia, we can make your watches work. Hold it and concentrate. Some of those people at home, they've got the watch, they're holding it tight, they're concentrating, they're shaking it, they're doing all sorts of things. And then I'll say after a minute or so, now open up your hand and have a look at the watch. Now, some of those watches will be ticking again. From the mere fact of holding it, heating up the oil, shaking it. It might not tick for long, it might just tick maybe 10, 15 minutes or less, or maybe an hour or so, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so a small percentage of those people who went to their cupboards, got the watch, finally open their eyes, open their hand, and the watch is ticking. They're just absolutely gobsmacked. Gobsmacked?
Drunk.
Gobsmacked. It's a new word. They're gobsmacked. And just saying, so then I'll say, now, if your watch started ticking again, please let us know. Now, only if a tiny percentage of those people decide to ring the radio station, they're going to get what they call the switchboard meltdown. Say 50 people all at the one time, or 20 people at the one time rang the radio station. Oh, it's amazing. We're getting all these calls on the board. My watch started working. It's incredible. Grandfather's watch hadn't worked for years. It's incredible. I sit back and say, you see? Look at that. It's all true. And that's what really happens.
Wow. I was young enough to actually see Uri Geller live at the Civic Theatre in Newcastle as a kid. I remember my mum took me along, and it was all this sort of stuff, and he was predicting we would all have psychic powers by the year 2000. Yeah. But look, so what about World Trade Center 7, Richard? You got anything to say about that?
Oh, boy.
See, that's all. I find is with this sort of thing, you should always lead from a simple thing into an incredibly complex question that can't possibly be answered within the time allowed.
I think that's right. But what I would say is... It's a spoon trick. It's a spoon trick. You know what I saw the other week in Sydney? A big billboard for the truthers had put out. Some truthers. What about World 7, it said, or something, and an address.
Well, WTC 7 is a building that fell with less explanation and less footage of it.
Yeah.
There is one shot of a helicopter behind it showing the extensive damage to the back of it, which rarely gets seen.
I don't have right off the top of my head the great answer for you, but I know Brian Dunning. I'm pretty sure Brian Dunning did a Skeptoid episode on it, which was very good, and that's very easy to find that one.
But when you're on particularly commercial radio, is it you where you go on sometimes?
I go on all of them, yeah.
Do you take callers so you can have like a huge question like that couldn't be answered with a one-hour documentary, and how do you handle it?
Okay, well, no one's ever called up to ask about that. As a matter of fact, what people will call up and say is they'll tell me their psychic experience, or they'll tell me about the time they went to the clairvoyant, and that can go on for minutes and minutes and minutes. And unfortunately, my answer at the end has to be, well, I'm sorry, I wasn't there. Did you record it? And then I tried to explain the fact that people misremember. People misremember psychic readings. It's very hard to tell somebody that because as far as they're concerned, their memories are true. And that's not their fault. All our memories are like that. We need to record these things. That's what I get most of the time.
Look, before I knew the skeptics as well as I do now, whenever I had one on the show, I would always get into the topic of religion, because I know that goes straight into belief, which can't be explained skeptically. So when people ask about that, but what about God? What do you normally say on that on the public radio?
I try to keep that very brief. I say, personally, I just treat that like any other supernatural claim. If there's good evidence to back it up, be it God or unicorns or whatever the case may be, then bring forth your evidence. I try to put them all in the same basket. But then again, I'm what they call a Bigfoot skeptic, which is a relatively new term, which means while I have an interest in questions of gods and that sort of thing. It's not my primary focus. My primary focus is clairvoyance, it's strange creatures, it's the possibility of UFOs coming to... It's the old-fashioned stuff. It's the stuff that we remember from the 1970s because that's when I got into it, and that's my passion. And also, I leave those questions to other people because they're far better qualified and knowledgeable to answer those questions. Like Ian Bryce here in the audience, he's more qualified and knowledgeable on those things than I am to answer those questions.
Yeah, he's what we refer to as scary smart. Yeah.
He's a rocket scientist, you know.
Okay. Look, of course, it is a big week in skepticism this week with the release of William Shatner's new album. Ponder the Mystery, which actually, as skeptics, you should all be very skeptical of musically and lyrically. He's done it with the members of Yes and that. Do you think this could be a resurgence of prog rock in the skepticism movement?
Oh, definitely. And I think it's yet another wonderful example of how William Shatner reinvents himself.
Yeah, well.
I mean, what is he, pushing 80?
Yes, yeah. Well, what's the line of the song? Ponder the mystery, avoid the stiff neck of arrogance, I believe is the first line. There you go. So,
I mean, I'm a big fan of William Shatner because he seems to be a fun guy and he doesn't take himself seriously.
Yeah, it's like a wacky new age album with a touch of logic to it there. And look, I think that's all I've got. Has anyone got any questions before we finish up and get the bums rush?
You didn't show us how you did your first spoon trick, which is done where the spoon's horizontal and you rub it and it rises up.
Oh, all right. Yes, all right. Yeah. For the benefit of the volunteer from the audience.
I'm a bit busy at the moment.
Oh, yeah. She's tweetering, folks.
Yes, she's texting. She's
texting. She's tweetering.
She's writing a blog titled "Richard Saunders is a poo," inspired by the last talk in this room, I think.
Well, from my position of arrogance, I will show you.
Yep, okay. The stiff neck of arrogance.
The stiff neck. So, there's two ways to do the spoon. Now, you all sort of saw what I did to make it the break. And that takes practice, but the better... Oh, a tip. When you're preparing a spoon for that, be very careful because you're putting so much energy into here, you can actually burn your fingers. And when I started doing it with these, when I was learning, I'd put all this energy and touch them and I'd get little blisters.
Oh, that's a giveaway.
That's a giveaway. So the second one... It's really a classic case of misdirection and letting your perceptions overtake what you see in a way, and I'll explain that. What I mean by misdirection is that that's a normal straight flat spoon, as you can all see. The important thing, and magicians know this very well, is if I misdirect you, I can bend that quite easily, which I just did. Now,
yes, show us again in slow motion, Mr. Smarty.
All right. So this is a normal straight flat spoon, and my goal is to bend it. I think most of you probably caught it that time because you're all prepared and waiting. But if you're not prepared and waiting, and I'm just holding a spoon casually like this, and if I look you in the eye, you're going to look me in the eye. You're not going to look what I'm doing over here. Okay, that's the first step. So I get it nice and like that. The second step is when I present it back, I present it like this. It still looks like it's a flat spoon because you don't know it's bent. The last thing you saw was a spoon that looked like this, right? The next step, and remember, in the back of your mind, you're expecting to see a bend. That's what you're expecting to see. If I start holding like this and stroke it, all I have to do is just squeeze my fingers a little bit. You see how that's starting to rise? It's just tilting on its axis, all right? That's all it's doing. All I'm doing is that. But combined with this, so I'm making you think that by stroking it I'm doing something magical, and combined with your expectations...
Up she comes.
Look at that. Now, you all know what I'm doing. I've just explained it, but still it looks like, it's doing that.
Okay. Well, is that our time, Joel, is it? Richard's Naughty Spoon Shop will be later. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Spoon Bending 101. Thank you very much.
Now, we're here near the free book stand, and of course we've got one of the organisers. Who we got here?
We've got Jason Brown here.
Who's bloody 10 kilograms lighter than he was at SkeptiCamp last year.
More than 10, about 20-something since,
That's through obsessive-compulsive bike riding disorder.
I haven't been eating, I've just been chewing my fingernails.
Look, and I've got to say, congratulations on the nice spread you put out for lunch here. We've got water and we've got gluten-free sandwiches.
You got to have gluten-free sandwiches for the imaginary digestive complaints.
I immediately got that. It looks great. Now, of course, when will the most controversial moment be, which wasn't earlier in the day, as a lot of people think, the most controversial moment will indeed be Cupcake Camp. When does that happen?
We were just discussing Cupcake Camp. We believe that's happening immediately after lunch. That's been conducted by two of our colleagues from the Western Sydney Freethinkers, who appear to be missing at the moment.
Now, I believe that there's the inside running is that the all strawberry, all day, every day one could be one that is one to watch out for this year.
Oh really? Is that?
Yes, I've heard that someone's gone the all strawberry route. Now, I think the only way that could be beaten if someone goes the all chocolate route, which is possible. So this could end up being very controversial.
Well, I have some inside information on this. And
can you spill at this moment or not?
Well, I could, but are you putting a bet on anything?
Well, look,
and it wouldn't be ethical of me to spill the information if you're putting large money on it.
No, well, because see, I would think all strawberry is a pretty good bet, but then again, chocolate usually trumps strawberry.
What if there was chocolate and peanut butter?
Oh, man, now I'm really confused. I don't know. I really don't know here. I think, look, I don't know. I think I'd rather put my money on homeopathy than try and figure out who wins this. And what's the prize, by the way?
I do not know. We should find B and Bronwyn for you so we can find out. I don't know what the prize is.
Now, as the organiser, what's been the focus this year in comparison to other years of SkeptiCamp in Sydney? And you've also been to Melbourne too, so we're a bit different in Sydney. What do you reckon?
Well, as always, the focus is on the people and what comes out of that. And really, my big focus was getting lunch here on time.
And you've done a great job.
It eventually turned up, yeah.
and look, what sponsors have we had this year? We can give a free kick for some of the people that have hit the tin for you.
Oh, excellent. We were sponsored this year by SkeptiCamp.com, in the In Vino Veritas podcast, which I've plugged again. Yes.
Now look, you keep talking about this podcast. You've only done 3 episodes. There's been no new episodes for about a year. I love the show. Every time I see you guys...
There have been hundreds of episodes, Maynard. You just haven't seen them.
Well, how come in my iTunes aggregator there's only 3?
Well, there's something wrong with your iTunes aggregator. I'll talk to my colleague Dave here. Dave.
Now look, Dave,
there have episodes of In Vino Veritas that there have been, in fact.
Because look, I've only got 3 in my iTunes aggregator, and I'm pretty sure you haven't put anything out for quite some time.
Well, I think we've released 400, but we've recorded many, many more. We've just got a much higher level of quality control than most skeptical podcasts in this country.
Well, that is an incredibly high level in that you don't actually release them.
What's this going out on?
They're so good. I mean, we just bang out the Skeptic Zone every week like it's a lot of old poop. But you guys have got stuff so good, no one's ever going to hear it. Now, that must be fantastic.
It's dynamite stuff, and unbelievable. The world is not really ready for the revelations within.
Because, look, we've got an image. Look, please go and have a listen to these 3 or 4 podcasts you can find, people, because it is one of my favourite podcasts of all time. You guys get there, you get a bit pissy as the show goes on, you get a bit more bitchy. Look, anything can happen. There's the emergency content alarm, which I think should be made mandatory on all ABC radio stations every hour, because it's fantastic. You just hit the random search on Google.
System. It senses that we've run out of content and just skips in.
Which sounds uncannily like an alarm on Blake 7.
There's several alarms there. There's one from Blake's 7, there's one from Blake's 8, which never even got... That's another secret. There's one from the 5th element and the 6th element. There's one from Hawaii 5.0 and Hawaii 7.0.
7.0?
Yeah, Hawaii 6.0. Yeah.
See, this is the kind of stuff you hear on the show. Now, Dave, you're going to get up in front of the people and give a talk today. What are you going to be doing in SkeptiCamp?
Well, I've actually already given mine today.
But it's too late for you, Maynard.
Well, look, I can't be 2 places at once.
How about? Yes, and I'm actually practicing today for a competition tonight. I'm competing in the state semi-finals at the Toastmasters Humorous Speech competition, where I will be delivering my humorous speech entitled "The Principles of Homeopathy."
Ooh, now that's a bit of a specialist subject. Do you think you run a risk of the audience not getting it?
I try to demonstrate. I use props, and I demonstrate very clearly the 3 ideas that I think are core to homeopathy: extreme dilution, succussion, that is banging on a book, and like cures like. And the speech is built around these 3 ideas, and then a lot of...
Are you giving a practical demo at all? Have you got something you'll...
Yeah, I certainly am. I'm creating the world's greatest hangover cure by using Shiraz as the basis for my homeopathic preparation.
That's great. Look, I wish you luck with that. I mean, again, I think the only thing against you is you could be a bit too specialist, but I love it.
Oh, it's definitely written for the layman. I mean,
good.
Unless you unless you're teetotal, I'm sure you'll be fine.
Now, were you tempted at any stage to pick up your guitar and sing during it? And would you be allowed to do that during Toastmasters? Can you augment with music?
I'm sure there's no rules against it. I'm certainly not doing it this time. I've not tried. I might have to make a speech about constructing improvised comedy songs, and then I can probably work it in, yeah.
And what issues have been prickling your hairs in the skeptical movement lately? Because we haven't spoken since lunchtime at last SkeptiCamp, Dave. So what have you been into? What have you been railing against? Because I'd love to hear on your podcast. Apparently it hasn't come out, but apparently it's still sequestered, the stuff you've said on your podcast. But what have you been railing against?
Personally, I've been very quiet lately as I prepare for some... I'm trying to write some new songs, actually. I'm thinking of getting back into gigging again. In terms of the skeptical thing that's happening at the moment, and I'm not taking any credit for this, but I'm really excited about the renewed pressure that's coming onto the bullshit end of chiropractic, or as I call it, chiropractic. Reasonable Hank, the blogger Reasonable Hank, has been doing, and some of the Fairfax papers as well.
Fantastic. The Fairfax papers and some of the News Corp papers, I think, have been wailing in.
Why do you think they've finally come around to this? Do you think they've seen a target where people are potentially being ripped off and they're taking that angle, the consumer protection angle?
It might just be that. It might just be it's just a political thing. I think that healthcare is such a hot potato, and when people are taking money for something that is just potentially dangerous, and when people are doing this with health funds, with health fund money or even with Medicare, then it matters. Healthcare's a massive part of a country's expenditure, and when it's being spelt on rubbish, it's not just a scientific issue, it's not just an ethical issue, it is a serious political issue. So it's about time that medicine was reined in, and I mean medicine in the broadest sense now, not in real medicine. It's about time that it was, really held to account by the media, because that's their job.
Well, look, of course, I want to direct people to the podcast that you have done so far, these 3 excellent episodes. Where can we find them on the web?
They're at InVinoVeritaspodcast.com.
Okay, and if people like it, write to these guys and tell them to get that stuff out of the vault.
Oh, the vault is jam-packed full of gold. Seriously. If we released it, it would devalue all other podcasts, and we don't want to do that. And also, I must point people to your SoundCloud page as well, where you have a cracker version of the Benny Hills theme on kazoo and ukulele. Oh, indeed. That's soundcloud.com/Stop That Astronaut. Yeah. Yes. Stop that. It's the best version I've ever heard. And have you got something you'd like to direct us to, Dave? Surely your musical stuff must be on SoundCloud somewhere. No. My musical stuff's also on the... If you search YouTube for Dave the Happy Singer, you will find some old videos of me gigging if you really want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'm very bad. Well, thanks, guys. I'll get back to lunch. And look, and have you got an inside winner for Cupcake Camp? Oh, I've got my money on Woobisaurus. Now, is that the strawberry entry or the chocolate entry? Yes. Ooh. And with that...
Just vote once, please.
Of course,
may the best cupcakes win.
Because the most important part of the day is here. Now, could you explain to the listener what's going on here?
So we're doing Cupcake Camp at the moment. Cupcake Camp is a tradition of Skeptic Camp. Everyone brings some delicious homemade cupcakes, and everyone gets some free cupcakes to try, and then they vote on their favourite.
How many different people have we got entering, and how many different entries have we got to judge?
We've got quite a few entries. We've got some from Esther, some from Ruth, some from Dan, some from B, and some from myself. So there's lots of variety here today.
I see a range of flavours here. I was told that there was going to be a strong presence from strawberry here today. Is that correct? Were you the strawberry baker?
I am the strawberry baker. My cupcakes are strawberry cupcakes with cream cheese frosting and fairy floss on top.
Well, I can see them. They're visually very pleasing. I think the thing that only could beat them is if there was something maybe with some chocolate or some honey or like that. So it could be anyone's game, couldn't it?
Well, yeah, but I think that Esther deserves a mention for her Cookie Monster cupcakes, complete with cookie in his mouth. I think that's a really good idea.
That is pretty good. Now, do you think what percentage is the visual and what percentage is the actual taste? Do you think? You ever tried to work this out? What makes a great cupcake?
Well, I think a great cupcake has to be both, but I think today it will definitely be dominated by flavour. So we'll see. We'll see what the people think.
I'm going to get into this right now. It's anyone's game. And what's the prize, by the way?
I think the prize is donated by Rat Bags this year again. I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Well, if it's a bottle of wine, he's already drank it.
Oh, no.
Don't worry, I'm sure he'll find another one in the boot of his car.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just say, I've just had Esther's Cookie Monster cupcake. It's pretty unreal. We've got a man here who's got one here now. I believe that's Esther's entry in the cupcake competition.
Okay.
It's a Cookie Monster actually eating a small cookie as a cupcake. I'd like your response as you eat it, sir. Here we go. It's a small chocolate chip cookie, whatever the eyes are made out of, and all that beautiful icing all in one go. It's almost a bit much.
Good, yeah. I do have one comment. There's definitely not enough blue food in the world. Definitely need more blue food, but this is very good.
It is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I believe, as they say in the world of cupcakes, a contender.
It is indeed. It's not too sweet, just right.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Now, well done, Esther, on the Cookie Monster cupcake. What inspired you to do a Cookie Monster this time?
It's Paul as well.
Oh, right. Well done, Paul. I see. You're both claiming. Oh, okay.
It's a coalition.
I gotta say, it was pretty good. It's a visual feast, and what are the eyes made of? The googly monster's eyes?
They're actually mint M&Ms.
Right. So in that cupcake, you're getting a small chocolate chip cookie. You're getting the beautiful blue icing, and you're getting mint M&Ms.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Wow, it is pretty. Did you do a calorie count on that? For those of us that might be diabetic, will we just go into a seizure?
It's probably best not to think about that. Okay. Yeah, we're all contracting diabetes as we speak, I think.
I'm going to make like a hungry dog now and get all my cupcakes into the corner and eat them slowly, defensively. Well, I've just had a few cupcakes there, and I am getting a huge sugar hit now, Michael. Michael, you've been you're watching your weight, so you've been staying as far away as possible from the cupcake camp table.
Yes, in danger of actually exploding currently.
Oh, look, that's because you've had an injury. You've had a wrist injury, which can lower the amount of exercise you do, but it hasn't stopped you the amount of listening you've been doing to the Skeptic Zone. It's a new listener we're meeting here, Michael. When did you pick up on the zone?
Oh, I would have started listening in about November 2012.
Yeah, and how did that happen?
Basically, I was sick of listening to idiots. There was too much woo and garbage going around. Started listening to skeptical podcasts. Suddenly heard you talking to Geo from Geologic, and instantly had to go and listen to all the back catalogue.
Oh, right. And look, and I've got lots of interviews with Geo on my own podcast as well, where you can spend an hour talking to him, and man, we really get into it, don't we?
Just slightly.
The one at TAM, I think, would have to be one of the best interviews I've ever done with anyone, because we covered a lot of taboo subjects in that, and stuff that you wouldn't normally talk to with any interview subject, and I thought that was I loved that interview.
Yeah, he seems to interview very well, and you seem to really connect with him. You can hear it in the interviews. It's really, really good.
I think, as he says in the interview, Geo's used to doing the Geologic podcast every week. So every week he's got to come up with something, he's got to say something. So he's long ago gone past the barrier where he's worried about what he says, but he also thinks through most of those things on the fly very well.
Yeah, he absolutely. You can see that he's actually spent some time thinking and working out his position behind an argument. And you hear him occasionally, he will say, well, no, I was wrong. I've changed my mind.
Yes.
Which all good skeptics should do. Because it's the one thing that people don't seem to realise. Part of science is being able to say, okay, got it wrong, new line of inquiry, and it's still science. In fact, that is science.
Now, Michael, where do you listen to your science podcasts and indeed the Skeptic Zone? Where do you do your listening? What's your listening habits?
Okay, my listening is either in the car, or a lot of the time I spend working in a very noisy environment, engineering plants. And so rather than just listening to nothing with boring headphones on, earmuffs on, I have headphones with noise cancelling in them and listen to you guys.
Well, look, it's great to have you on board as a listener. And what do you think of your first Skeptic Camp today?
Really good. Very, very nice to be able to talk to people about pretty much any subject And even if you disagreed with someone, you know you're going to get a reasoned debate.
Definitely.
So you can change your own mind. They can change my mind.
Yes.
I might change their mind. But it's really nice to have an area where you can actually talk to people.
Well, look, I'm particularly disappointed with the Skeptic Camp that there has not been enough open and robust discussion about William Shatner's new album, Ponder the Mystery.
Okay, I can't say I've heard a lot of that one.
So you're just stonewalling me on that. You're trying to divert me away from my topic. So you're an anti-Shatner. You're the anti-Shatner faction.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I did prefer Nimoy's version of...
If I Had a Hammer, was that?
No, the Hobbit one.
Oh, Bilbo Baggins?
Bilbo Baggins, that's it.
Okay.
Although Shatner's very direct and pointed lyrics are particularly interesting.
Oh, yes. Well, see, that's the kind of robust discussion we want here today. Look, Michael, great to have you on board as a listener, and enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, Maynard.
I'll just make my way over to the Cupcake Camp decision where it's being worked on at the moment. Excuse me, sir, you got any on the inside running on Cupcake Camp?
I voted for vanilla, and I'm proud.
Right. I thought that was merely a sexual preference on your part.
Oh, that's just by the way, you know.
And what, because people were working the flavours too hard this year. Strawberry was too much. The cookie one had too much in it. Is that why you were just going with plain vanilla?
I had no problem with the cookie one, but I just preferred the plain vanilla. I'm a very plain vanilla person.
Okay, but you are wearing a Trilby hat, sir.
I am wearing a Trilby, yes.
Well, we've got many people here at SkeptiCamp rumbling, thumbling, talking out in the foyer. Have you made a vote on the Cupcake Camp competition yet?
No, I actually haven't.
I see you, sir, have been eating some cupcakes here. Which one have you listed as your favourite?
The one with the Baileys. Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, that one's
the Baileys one.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
But then, no, of course, it's a tough choice.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually made a point to actually try each one of them and drink some water in between so that I can taste them clearly.
Oh, you're a connoisseur of the cupcake.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to say...
Sugar overload.
I think Esther's Cookie Monster cupcake has me going because he had the mint eyes, the little chocolate chip cookie in the monster's mouth. Pretty good.
Yeah, I must say it's pretty cute. But, well, it's all getting eaten.
But you're obviously a Bailey's fan, aren't you? Yeah. Oh, hang on. I think the winner's about to be announced.
We're going to have the announcement for Cupcake Camp. Applause.
Okay, it's the big announcement. Here we find the winner of Cupcake Camp 2013.
Did everyone enjoy the cupcakes?
Yeah. Hell yeah!
Okay. Well, that's the most important bit. But now the real more important bit is we've actually won. So, first prize goes to, can I get a drum roll? Of course, our Canberra Cupcake Queen, Ruth. Come on down, we've got a choice of 2 books from Inbiggen Books.
Which cakes? Which cupcakes?
Ruth made the Bailey's cupcake.
Oh, yeah.
And second prize with the hands down most adorable cupcakes was Esther with her Cookie Monster.
Yes, Esther's taking it out. She's come second with her Cookie Monster cupcake.
And Paul!
And third prize goes to the most orgasmic chocolate cupcakes that I have ever had, Daniel.
Well, look, now we've got someone who is intimately involved in the selection of the winner of Cupcake Camp. Who have we got here?
Oh, this is B.
Hello, pleased to meet you once again. We spoke last year. Now, I believe Ruth has won again from Canberra. Esther came second with her Cookie Monster. Now, what did Ruth from Canberra win with?
Oh, Ruth won with her Bailey's Irish Cream Cupcakes, which were absolutely amazing.
Wow. How did she manage to do it without making it too cloying?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know Ruth's secrets.
I might just go ask her, but was it a clear win?
It was, actually. But Ruth, I think part of her secret is how pretty she makes her cupcakes.
Hang on, some stats have just come in. Our stats man's come in. It's a downtown Jason Brown.
This was the 3rd Sydney SkeptiCamp, the 5th in Australia, but the 75th worldwide.
Well, do you get some sort of award, a ribbon, a horse?
I wish. I'm going to have to talk to Reed and see if I can get some sort of trophy or a medal or I don't know, a bar of gold, some sort of bottle of beer even.
Look, congratulations on your 20 kilograms plus weight loss since last year, and also on the 75th Skeptic Camp, and now it's time for drinks.
It is. We're off to the pub now. Are you coming to the pub, Maynard?
Yeah, lovely.
Hey, this is Jay Novella from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast. Did you know that there are thousands of skeptical reports, interviews, and investigations going back to 1981, free to download? Just visit www.skeptics.com.au. Click the publications link and enjoy almost every back issue of The Skeptic, the journal from Australian skeptics. You can also subscribe online and get the latest digital or hard copy of this, the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. That's www.skeptics.com.au or just Google Australian Skeptics.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science news you need to know. This week in science, we saw Nobel Prizes announced, why exercise is good for the brain, and the heartfelt effect of airports. US researchers have developed self-assembling robots. Terminator, eat your heart out. The small robotic cubes contain flywheels which allow them to climb over and around each other, leap through the air and roll across surfaces. Inbuilt magnets help the cubes stick together, and they could be programmed to automatically assemble into furniture or heavy equipment as required. They could also operate in hostile and inaccessible environments and reorganise themselves to overcome obstacles. The creme de la creme of awards, the Nobel Prizes, were announced in Stockholm this week. The prize for medicine was awarded to James Rotham, Randy Sekman and Thomas Sudoff for discovering how a cell's transport system works. As expected, the physics prize was awarded to Peter Higgs and Francois Englert for their Higgs boson theory, whose existence was confirmed last year at the Large Hadron Collider. And the chemistry prize was awarded to Martin Karplus, Michael Levitt and Ari Warshel, who combined classical and quantum physics to understand complex chemical processes. This led to modern computer modelling in chemistry. You're listening to A Week in Science from RiAus, and now 4 science headlines in 30 seconds. Living near an airport is linked with an increased risk of heart disease. Exercise is good for our brains as it increases the release of irisin, a molecule responsible for improving memory and learning. In response to a spate of knuckle injuries in elderly people, Australian engineers have redesigned the humble wheelie bin, making it safer if it topples. And elephants recognise if a human points at an object, unlike great apes who generally don't understand pointing at all. Last week, we asked you about water on Mars. There is approximately 1 litre of water in every 30 kilograms of Martian soil. Make sure you watch the RiAus live stream on Friday the 18th of October for World Vasectomy Day. We'll be broadcasting a day-long mix of videos, live discussions, and wait for it, live vasectomies. Check out our website for details. That's it for this A Week in Science. I'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and thank you, Maynard. Wow, what an effort. Don't forget, next week, even more interviews and reports from SkeptiCamp Sydney from Maynard. He was very busy, folks, I promise you that. Can't wait to hear his reports from the upcoming Australian Skeptics National Convention in Canberra. Now, I have been meaning to bring you reports about chiropractic, which has been in the news lately. Still working on that one. Had a few bumps along the way in the last couple of weeks, as you understand. But we will bring you that as soon as we can. But for this week, and no matter where you are or what you're doing, if you're driving in your car, if you're at the gym at the moment, on the treadmill, which I try to do as often as I can, if you're riding your bike, walking along the street, working or working late into the night, thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.